The Speaker recognizes the Honorable Tom McMillin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to say a few words as I prepare to depart this chamber. First, I'd like to mention some of the efforts I'm pleased to have played a role in, reforming our indigent defense system to ensure we don't take away our citizens' liberty for a crime they didn't commit, stopping Common Core, at least temporarily, and forcing a debate on the nationalization of education in our state, uncapping charter schools to help ensure thousands of kids will get a decent education instead of being stuck in a failing school, which no doubt would have been their fate. The 80-20 hard cap to ensure our government employees pay as much as our average non-government citizens do for health insurance. The NDAA legislation to help ensure the federal government doesn't take away our citizens' rights to due process. The metrics and scorecards for State Department spending. We as a state must get to what the governor called value for money budgeting and be able to clearly articulate the specific outcomes of the spending of our taxpayers' money. Transparency in our office's spending. We are still the only chamber that is transparent in our office spending and staff salaries. Taxpayers deserve that information. The ongoing exposure and beating up on the fallacy known as corporate welfare. The government does central planning very poorly. Well-connected businesses end up getting the money funded by everybody else. These schemes do more harm than good. And pushing back on the assault on our citizens' freedoms and liberties, like working to get transparency and reforms to civil asset forfeiture, working for SWAT raid transparency, working to restrain government from assaulting our citizens' privacy with government drones, license plate readers, facial recognition and biometric devices, military-style surveillance devices like Hailstorm, participation with federal warrantless checkpoints, the use of warrantless GPS devices and cell phone tracking, state and locals assisting the NSA and other government agencies in violation of the Fourth Amendment, and the use of government databases with no oversight like Metro Detroit's Clemma system. At the very least, we need transparency in these areas. We should know more details about how the government takes away from our citizens without a conviction through asset forfeiture their assets, and why and what are the results of the growing number of SWAT raids in our state and the increased militarization of law enforcement. And our citizens should know more about how their government is surveilling and tracking them through the efforts I just mentioned, drones, license plate readers, etc. I hope returning and future legislators will pick up on these and other issues like free the jitney, FOIA reform, though hopefully the Senate will pass Rep. Shirkey's House Bill 4001 before we finish. 10th Amendment issues, body cameras for law enforcement, state and local spending transparency, fighting for local control in education, and stopping the increased high-stakes testing in our public schools that only causes the elimination of so many of the subjects that give students a well-rounded education merely in favor of what is on the test. And finally, a few thank yous and acknowledgments. First, thank you to the citizens of the 45th District for allowing me to represent you these last 6 years. Thank you to my wife, Dalila, for tolerating the requests or the requirements this position has put on her. She's always said as she was growing up until she met me that the one thing she would never do is marry a politician. Thank you to my staff, both current and former, Jonathan, Alex, Brent, Josiah, Maureen, and Derek. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to chair oversight, JCAR, and education for a time. Thank you to the Republican House members for putting up with me all these years, for all my questions and comments during weekly caucus meetings. Brian Mills and Hassan Beydoun, your wisdom and integrity have been and will continue to be invaluable to the legislature and the people of Michigan. Thank you to the Republican members who stood with me while under very intense pressure and forced a serious debate and defunded, at least for a while, Common Core last year. As an aside, I do think the legislature needs to exert its power more often during the budget process. That is your time to stop bad things that the executive branch may be doing. Use boilerplate. In it, you can stop pretty much anything the state does. It is your real power. Thank you to now Congressman Justin Amash. I learned a lot from you those 2 years you were here. And thank you for speaking in my place against the $100 million, $333,000 per job corporate welfare scheme when I was denied the ability to speak on the floor back in 2009. To Representatives Irwin and Robinson, I've enjoyed working with you on the many areas we agree. Representative Robinson, you are one of the strongest advocates for our citizens' rights, rights that are increasingly under assault. Thank you for participating in my winter liberty discussions, and thank you for co-sponsoring more of my bills than anyone else in this chamber. Thank you to the Mackinac Center and the Institute for Justice for your resources and insight. And yes, thank you to the ACLU. We definitely have our areas of strong disagreement, but I enjoyed working with you, Shelley Weisberg, on so very many important issues like indigent defense, civil asset forfeiture, drones, NDAA, free speech issues, GPS and cell phone tracking, government surveillance, CLEMIS database oversight, and FOIA reform. So many of these issues, I think Republicans and Democrats need to work closer together to restrain the government from trampling on our citizens' rights. To close, I would simply ask that God would bless the citizens of Michigan and that He bless each and every one of you. Thank you.